We mark a 35-year career in policing, 6 of them as a chief of the Peel Regional Police. Jennifer Evans, on January the 11th, 2019, hangs up her handcuffs, as they would say, as a chief of police for Peel Region. First of all, Chief, thank you so much for joining us here. Did you ever really own handcuffs?
I did, actually. I still have a pair, so yes.
Nowhere good I can go with that. We're here in the brand new Police Museum. Fabulous place, new location on Mississauga Road. Is it open to the public? And give me a little bit, I saw a picture of a young Officer Evans on the wall over there as well. Very interesting. Tell us about this.
Yeah, so when we had the new headquarters constructed, we just opened just recently in the last 2 months, and we did an grand opening. So I encourage people from the community to come on out. So we've celebrated 40 years in policing in Peel. We used to be 5 different police services. Now we're 1 as Peel. Front doors are always open, 7150 here, Mississauga Road. Mississauga and Derry Road. Come on in and come and look at our museum. We'll show the history of our police service.
Chief Evans, you've been a trailblazer, one of the first female chiefs. When you look at what's happened in the Peel region and you look forward, the legacy that you're leaving, what is the future here with regards to policing, and what do you see coming next?
Well, you know, I think in the last 6 years I've really focused on community partnerships, being out in the community, trying to change the officers, the culture of the officers in the police department to not just reacting to calls for service and crimes, but being proactive, getting to know their neighborhood, getting to know their community and their citizens, encouraging people to come forward and tell us what's going on in the community and how we can help.
There's been a master plan that you've done and been a part of. What do you see coming to fruition with that once you've departed?
Well, I'm hoping that my legacy will continue. I think the partnerships will only increase. I've got 6 community advisory groups. The community leaders come out and they sit down and they discuss with myself and the deputy in charge of community engagement and support. We talk about how we can get better, how we can get out to community events, and I think that legacy will continue. I think when I broke the news about my retirement, a lot of the community leaders came to me and saying, you know, will these continue? And they will. I anticipate the leadership. The last 6 years, I've been developing leadership from within, so I'm quite confident that I'm leaving this place in a better place. So,
one of the hallmarks of your stay over the 6 years as Peel Regional Police was reaching out, the outreach to the community. Of course, this region is highly ethnic. How successful have you been? What would you evaluate your success at?
Well, you know what, I think I've been very successful because I say I've spent a lot of my evenings. I lived in Brampton the last 5 years, and I say living in the region, working in the region, it really makes you appreciate all the different communities. Going out to different festivals, there's so many within Peel. We're so lucky here. And I say the officers right now, we represent so many various communities, and I say because they get out to all the community groups and all the festivals, and I think we're really doing well on that. So,
final question in this segment: what do you see in the future of policing? We're talking about automation. We're talking about self-driving cars. We're talking about so many other aspects. If you were to rub the crystal ball of Chief Evans, what would be your opinion of what's going to happen in policing?
Well, I'm hoping technology within enforcement is as expedient as the technology is advancing out there. I think sometimes we feel frustrated in policing in the fact that we don't have the technology to keep up with sometimes the cyber crimes. But I think, you know, automated vehicles definitely are coming. I had those conversations with the Association of Chiefs of Police. But then we as police have to figure that out. And then who's responsible if there are car accidents? And is it going to be a phased in that sometimes some will have automated cars, some won't? So it's going to be exciting and challenging for police in the future.
Wanted to talk a little bit about gangs and guns. It's something that's happened across our nation. When you look at when you came in 35 years ago, things have really changed. Where are we heading, and what's going to happen in the next millennium?
Well, you know what? It's disturbing to see the increasing use of firearms and the increase of use of violence. I find that the community are responding to violent. They're quickly getting violent where they never did before. When I first started policing 35 years ago, if you got a gun off the street, you were a hero. And it was very rare that we were seizing guns. Right now, I can tell you that we're seizing guns nightly off the streets. There's shootings, but the solvency rate for Peel Regional Police is still above the provincial average and above the national average. So I think that's the good news story with regards to guns. And to say, I'm hoping you said today there was an announcement with the OPP. We're doing more and more joint forces. So that means police services are actually working together because we recognize that the criminals are actually, it's cross-border. They're crossing jurisdictions, so it's not just Peel working in isolation. We work with our neighboring partners to solve these crimes.
Well, there was a report that they're manufacturing guns with no numbers traceable. So buying parts and manufacturing, and then of course there's always the associated drugs and money, etc. When you look at someone who's actually manufacturing guns with no imprint of identification number on it, how mass is that across Canada?
Well, I think we're just seeing that starting to increase. And I know there are companies coming out with laser technology that talk about they can do laser identification numbers on shell casings, which I think would really advance policing, advance solving crime. So I'm hoping in the future those companies will continue to increase the technology to help police solve crimes.
One of the things that the Liberal government stood on was the legalization of marijuana, and it's here. I don't know too many cops that think that there isn't a link sometimes between marijuana use and crime. Now, the medical use of marijuana and mom and pop average, of course, but when you look at the advent of marijuana now being proliferated through our Canadian system, how hard is it now for police officers to have to deal with that? Because that's one more thing, not only where it's sold, but when someone gets caught with it. How much of a red herring has the legalization of marijuana been for the police departments across Canada?
Right now, it's still early, so it's only been a month and a half. So we're seeing an increase in some of the violent crimes. We've had some victims within our region be robbed for legally smoking marijuana, and then someone's come along and tried to rob them. So we're seeing an increase in that. I worry for future whether we're going to see an increase in impaired driving. So it's hard to believe still in this day and age, we're talking about we still have ride programs out. People are still driving impaired by alcohol. So I think it's only natural that they will combine alcohol and drugs. So we may see an increase on that. Right now, it's still a bit too soon to tell.
Well, one would also say that just because we have an LCBO does not mean that we condone alcoholism, and just because marijuana is legal does not mean that we condone people to walk around stoned and drive a car.
I agree.
And finally, 35 years in a career. I mean, we're here in the Police Museum on Mississauga Road, and there was a picture of you way back as a young student, a young constable. When you look back at your career, I mean, 6 years as the chief in the Peel region, is there a memory or an impression that you would like to share with our folks that made a difference for you, that you now look upon as being the chief?
Well, you know what? I think it's really hard. There's been so many opportunities that I've had to make a change and impact on people's lives. I recall an incident when I became a deputy that I got a phone call from a victim that I had dealt with when I was a young officer. She was a victim of an assault.
You were in the sex crimes department,
I was in the youth bureau, so we used to investigate crimes against children. So this young woman phoned me to say that she was a mother and she'd heard that I'd become deputy chief. And she just wanted to say that, hey, she was okay and that I had made an impact, a positive impact in her life. And as a result, and she actually was reminding me of how I dealt with her. So clearly it had left an impact on me. So you know what, I'm happy that I'm retiring. I'm looking back on my career. I have a lot of positive memories. I've recently just sent a photograph from my old 12 Division days when I was a staff sergeant to my platoon to say, hey, it's been great. I found this old photo. I thought I'd share it with you. So I'm getting a lot of feedback from my young officers who are now no longer young officers, are now in investigative bureaus. And it's nice to get the feedback from them about their days and their memories of how we worked together at 12 Division. 35 years, respected and liked by many, appreciated by politicians, and of course, loved by many people in the region of Peel. Chief Jennifer Evans, thank you very much for everything you've done, and thank you for your years of service. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.